Probably the most memorized verse by the non-saved world and by the lukewarm church is Matthew chapter 7. Judge not lest you judge. Hey, the atheists know that verse, judge not lest you judge, as they wag their finger at you. Some of the Christians will say, judge not lest you judge. See, in Matthew chapter 7, Jesus was not saying that all judging is always bad. He was saying to not judge hypocritically in context as the Pharisees were. He was rebuking the Pharisees there. For example, if I told a Christian that they should not be willfully committing a particular sin, and I was committing that sin myself, then that's an unbiblical Matthew 7 judgment. However, if I was not sinning in that area, I have some credibility in that area to give counsel to that person and talk to him about it. Could you please turn to 1 Corinthians chapter 5? 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 9. While you're going there, many months ago I have a Christian friend, unfortunately, that backslid, divorced his wife, moved in with his new hottie, his new girlfriend, now living in sin. It grieved my heart as I had lunch with this guy and he broke the news to me. I had tears in my eyes. See, real love will grieve at sin. I didn't feel led to talk to him about them, but he knew by the expression on my face. But I did say this. I'm sorry to hear that. I had to at least say that. I'm sorry to hear that. It says in Galatians chapter 6:1, stay where you're at in 1 Corinthians. Galatians 6:1 says, Brethren, if a man is overtaken in any trespass, you who are spiritual, restore such a one in a spirit of gentleness, considering yourself, lest you also be tempted. The Lord put it on my heart to keep silent other than saying, I'm sorry to hear that. Why? Because God knows me. He knows me that if I were to talk to him about it or correct him, that I wouldn't have done it in the spirit of gentleness. So God was telling me, wait. And the time came when to talk to him about it. Just before this election time, my friend shared his frustrations about the quote-unquote homosexual agenda. Now, I'm against the homosexual agenda too. I'm not afraid to say that. I knew then that that was my aha moment. That was my opportunity to talk to him about his sexual immorality. I reminded him how the Apostle Paul warned the church that we're not to so much judge the world, that we're really to judge the church first. And that he too was a sexually immoral person. See, he was a Pharisee. He was living in fornication. It's an abomination to the Lord. In God's eyes, it's no different than the sin of homosexuality. The only difference is he can marry a girl if he wanted to. See, Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians chapter 5, now that you're there, verses 9 through 12, emphasis added, this was written to Christians, not to non-Christians. I wrote to you in my epistle not to keep company with sexually immoral people. Yet I certainly do not mean that the sexually immoral people of this world, that means the non-saved, or the covetousness, or the extortioners, or idolaters, since then you would need to go out into the world. But now I have written to you to not keep company with anyone named a brother who is sexually immoral, or covetousness, or any idolater, or a reviler, or a drunkard, or an extortioner, not even to eat with such a person. Verse 12. For what have I to do with judging those who are outside the world? Do you not judge those who are inside? In verse 12 it says, why judge those outside the church, buckaroo? You ought to be judging the ones inside, he's saying, especially ourselves. Verse 13, but those who are outside God judges. Therefore put away from yourselves the evil person. Now, obviously, those that are outside, we can take a stand and vote against these things in legislations. Prop 8, I voted yes on that. Those are the things the church should do, but we're really to judge the church more than we are to the world, Paul's saying here in context.